So we don't have time for questions. We now move to the next talk. It's implants and biologics in lumbar interbody fusion by Dr. Komal Prasad.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor Sahu, for making this academic feast possible. It's really very exciting to have this yearly program in spite of the COVID pandemic. I thank and congratulate Professor Sahu and his team and guidance of Professor Ramani to make this possible. I am going to talk about an important topic, the theme of the conference being evidence-based spinal surgery. So now we are getting lot of important emphasis on new implants and biologics in lumbar interbody fusion. So I want to delve into the recent advances which is happening in this field and take you through the various different uh, options available for lumbar interbody fusion and what's the evidence we have to use them and what exciting new avenues are opening up in this field. So as we all know, the ideal lumbar interbody cage should be able to recreate adequate disc space. It should restore neural foraminal height and it should provide substantial area for bony fusion. And it should also restore normal anatomy, that is lordosis. And the desirable features for an interbody cage will be to have a hollow region of sufficient size to allow bone graft packing. It should be sturdy to withstand forces. It should have elasticity like bone to avoid subsidence and optimize fusion. It should ideally have ridges or teeth to resist retropulsion or ventral migration. It should be ideally radiolucent so that bony fusion will be visible in the radiograph. And it should be tapered with bullet tip for easier insertion into disc space. In the back of your mind, we should always keep that the gold standard bony fusion happens with autologous bone graft. The gold standard for bony fusion, gold standard material is autologous bone graft. And we should remind ourselves of the history, how this bone graft initially started. The three different constructs are taken here from the book Lumbar Interbody Fusion. It's a nice compilation on various aspects of this technique by Professor Satish Rudrappa, which was released 2-3 years ago through NSSA. So the first one is Clovart's technique using tricorticate and bicorticate grafts, and Professor Lin's technique of unipore concept, putting more cancellous bone, and Professor Ramani's concept of interbody fusion using tricorticate and bicorticate bone grafts. We should keep this always in mind, the history in mind, that this forms the ideal, the best gold standard for interbody fusion. So what should be the ideal property, critical physiology required for any graft material for good bony fusion? There are three important physiological aspects which we have to critically look at. First is osteogenesis, that is new bone formation through cellular proliferation. The examples are fresh autologous bone graft containing bone forming osteoprogenitor cells. Second is osteoinduction, that is stimulation of precursor cells to differentiate into mature bone. The examples are demineralized bone matrix and BMP, that is bone morphogenetic protein. The third important aspect is osteoconduction, that is growth of bone on a surface or in a 3D scaffold. So examples are materials with pores like ceramics. They definitely require autograft for solid bony fusion. By itself, they can't create bony fusion. We can call them extenders. Little bit of history again, we should look at how all this interbody fusion using cage came into place. It all started with Bagby basket, which This is the original patent, US patent of Bagby in 1985, where he devised a cylindrical metallic device to treat wobbler syndrome in race horses. Obviously, so this is a specific disease of the cervical spine of racing horses, and that required less time to rest the horses, and the need there was much more about not able to take autologous graft from the same horses, because that would mean additional period of rest for the horses. So Bagby devised a metallic uh, basket kind of thing, a cylinder in which the autologous bone taken from the local area is put in, and that would aid fusion. So that's the history and that's the need for this innovation, because autologous bone could not be harvested from those horses. Later, it got extrapolated into human use. Now we have quite a big array, big varieties of lumbar interbody fusion devices, and we all know the various approaches. If we need to classify these devices, we can classify in various different ways based on the approach, whether we go from anterior, posterior, pliff, or oblique lumbar interbody fusion, lateral interbody fusion, or axial fusion. So this requires different needs to devise this shape of these fusion devices. And based on material, it can be usually titanium alloy or PEEK material. PEEK has good elasticity similar to bone. So that reduces the incidence of subsidence, and hybrid materials are also available. And it can be static like most of what we generally use, and the new ones are coming as dynamic, in which when we are putting it in place, it will be sort of smaller, but once in place we can expand it further with its projections kind of thing, and that's the dynamic type of interbody devices. And regarding lordosis correction, it can be neutral, it can be lordotic, or it can be hyperlordotic. So these are various array of lumbar interbody devices, fusion devices available. Back cage, the original ones which initially started, then came reduction in the metal with the increase in hollow spaces in between, then the shape changed to trapezoid ones. So those are interfix device, Harms cage, the simple ones, then the PEEK cage where the material got changed, then banana or boomerang shaped devices where one device is enough to be placed anteriorly, and the biological materials like bone dowel, femoral ring. So these are other various devices which are available. In Indian context, what we generally see and what I generally use are this bull cage, particularly either one or two of this, which particularly is useful in posterior lumbar interbody fusion. It has a bullet shape, bullet nose, and smooth edges, ensures easy insertion and anatomical contours with serrated profile. And the second one is the bean cage, which is slightly larger, and this is particularly for transforaminal lumbar interbody fusion. Now coming to limitations of interbody fusion, implants and biologicals. So we should remember that the popularity of these implants and biologics is spectacularly disproportionate to evidence regarding its benefits. Theoretically, a solid bony fusion aided by a suitable interbody device which has good osseointegrative properties should lead to better clinical outcomes. But availability of such ideal material and device for clinical use is elusive. Also, studies have failed to correlate better clinical outcome with solid bony fusion. The complications are not negligible. Graft migration, neurological, vascular, and urological injuries should be weighed against the potential benefits. Systematic review and meta-analysis of 13 randomized trials have no proven clinical advantage over bone graft. This is particularly regarding bone morphogenic protein, which I'll be coming next. Cost of these implants is another limitation, particularly in developing countries like ours, and we should always keep that in mind. Some more detail about BMP, that is bone morphogenetic protein, is started in 1971, the isolation of effective component of extracellular matrix from degradation of dead bone with capacity to induce new bone formation. But now that we have found various different BMPs, there's a group of growth factors which have capability to induce bone or cartilage formation. Originally, there were 7 such proteins. Later, 13 more have been identified. With the advantage of recombinant DNA technology, recombinant human BMPs are available for clinical use for quite some time now. Particularly BMP7 and recombinant human BMP2 are most studied and available in market. There's some mounting evidence in spinal literature that utilizing BMP in spinal fusions contributes to major perioperative and postoperative morbidity. And various different meta-analyses have shown the disadvantages of it. Though it is a very effective and very potent material, we lack clear evidence about the dosing and when to and how much of BMP to be used. So if we concentrate on lumbar fusions by Hofstetter meta-analysis, if we see, his findings clearly showed that in anterior lumbar interbody fusion, the rate of complications were higher. Similar situation with transforaminal LAF also. But for PLIF, BMP was shown to enhance fusion with minimal side effects. Coming to recent advances, new exciting materials are being found. Composite cages using hydroxyapatite with PEEK, titanium with PEEK will make the material more to reduce the subsidence into the adjacent bone. Newer materials like silicon nitride, tantalum, nitinol, and bioactive glass, as seen in this here, they will be osteogenesis will be promoted. They have antibacterial properties and they will promote angiogenesis. So these are exciting new materials which are coming into play. And in experimental stages, mesenchymal stem cell transplant in some animal models, polymers, which are bioabsorbable implants, and gene therapy are coming into vogue. Better osseointegration is possible with 3D printed porous titanium alloy, nano coating using titanium and calcium phosphate, and nano texturing of the material. These are the new other avenues. All this looks very distant future, but actually some of them are already in market, like allograft cellular bone matrix. Already we are also having literature to show, even though there's so much of investment and utilization, particularly in US market, so they don't have solid evidence for their regular use. So this is said by Albert Einstein that perfection of means and confusion of goals seem, in my opinion, to characterize of our age. And it's true even today. Our goal is to relieve the patient from back pain and radicular symptoms. And the surrogate marker of it we have taken is the bony fusion, interbody fusion. And the tools we use are the implants and biologics. But we should not confuse the ultimate goal, which is the symptomatic relief of the patient, when we are having these many different new avenues, new implants and biologicals in our hand. And we should remember this Gardner's hype cycle, in which with every innovation, there will be a peak of inflated expectations, but it is bound to be followed with a trough of disillusionment, and we'll have to hope and wait for slope of an enlightenment for a plateau of productivity. To conclude, major advances have been made over past decade in implants and biologicals for lumbar interbody fusion. Current efforts are focused on improving osteointegration and on integrated screw cages. There are multiple new promising designs coming into vogue. However, adequate clinical evidence is lacking. Further studies to identify ideal osteointegrative, cost-effective lumbar interbody fusion implants and biologicals are required to improve clinical outcome. Thank you very much.